Hi everybody, thanks for joining me again. In this video I want to talk about an image from my last video, this one, and the way I processed it that some people might call cheating. So the image I'm talking about today, this one, was the final scene from my last video. I'd been out to a place called El Bagnetes, rocky area of coastline. I'd taken a couple of images shortly before and at around sunrise. I moved out onto right on the rocky edge of the little peninsula that I was on, where the waves were breaking, and I tried to get some shots while the sun was still kind of behind a bit of very thin hazy cloud, which was blocking some of the glare and meant that I wasn't having to worry about lens flare. There was a point about 20 minutes or so after official sunrise that a phenomenon occurred which happens here quite often just after sunrise, and that is you get a sudden increase in the power and frequency of the waves breaking. It doesn't last very long, but it can be quite a dramatic change. So I fired off actually 3 shots in the space of 5 seconds while that was going on, and I was hoping that I'd managed to capture the waves at their absolute best. When I got them back on the computer, I did my usual thing. I went through the various images and I tried to find which one was the best, and that's where I found an opportunity to do something a bit different. So let's have a look at the images now in Lightroom. So here's actually 4 images. So these 3, this one was shot at 7:49 and 48 seconds, 7:49 and 51 seconds, 7:49 and 53 seconds. So 5 seconds apart, which was when those waves were kind of breaking in. I'll come on to this first image a bit later. So my initial thoughts when I looked at these images was that this one was the best. These images have been processed in Lightroom, had basic raw processing done on them. But my first thought was this one was the best. We've got some nice dramatic waves breaking around the middle here. We got waves coming in from the bottom right hand side quite nicely. We've got this lovely water cascading off of the rocks here. And we've got a nice wave breaking here with spray catching the light and the wave kind of wrapping around here. So I thought that was going to be my image. But then I looked at the one that I shot a couple of seconds earlier. And this one, we got this beautiful spray all around the rocks here, and it's quite dramatic and exciting looking with all this water spraying around. We've got this lovely line going around here and spraying up across this section here, and this bit's not quite so nice, I think. Although the light on the rocks is nice, I think the waves wrapping around here looked a lot better. Then I looked at what was actually the first one I shot, and this one I'd obviously got the timing wrong pretty much completely, but I did like this sort of tail end of the wave here as it goes out around the rocks, and the little wave that's just breaking in here. So I decided I was going to use all 3 images, and I was going to basically do a composite of the 3. And while I was at it, I went back to a shot that I took about 2 minutes previously, which was my first attempt at getting some waves. It was actually quite a nice image, but I actually much preferred the sun position in this image compared to the later ones where it's starting to get a bit higher. So I decided I was going to composite all 4 of those images, and I'll just show you. I'm not going to go through every processing step, but I'll just show you basically what I did in Photoshop to do that. And basically I started off by selecting all 4 images and then doing edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. Okay, so here's all my layers in Photoshop. Okay, so what I've got here is all 4 of those images in Photoshop as layers, and I've got the latest image, sort of the one that I thought was going to be the best on first glance, showing at the moment. And all of the other layers are stacked on top. So this was the one that I first thought was going to be my best image, if you like. And what you can see here is the nice waves breaking over the rocks here, this lovely wave with the spray catching over here, and there's some quite nice waves sort of just coming into the corner here that look quite nice. And then what I did was I layered my second one on top, and this was the one that had all this beautiful spray coming around here and this lovely curving line and spray here, and these rocks all getting washed in the spray here. And I put a layer mask on and basically just used a soft white brush at 100% opacity and 100% flow to paint in the areas from that layer that I wanted to see. And you can see the mask over here, and if I click on it here, you can actually see all of my brush strokes, and these are all the bits that I brushed in. And the result of that was I now had all of this nice dynamic stuff going on here. I had this beautiful spray coming around here and around onto the rocks here. I still had my nice cascade of water coming in off the rocks here, and I still had my beautiful wave breaking with the spray coming up and catching the light there. I then put my next layer on, which was the layer that was probably the most boring layer, but I did like, as I said, this wave here and this little wave just breaking over here and the light coming from the sun. So again, basically all I did was I put a layer mask on and I let certain areas show through. Specifically on this one, it was just this area kind of at the top here. You can see it on the layer mask here. And if I show you the mask, that's all I did. I used a soft white brush and just brushed in the areas that I wanted to be able to see from that layer. And then finally, I put in this image, which had the sky and particularly the sun that I preferred, even though it was shot 2 minutes earlier. And again, I just used a brush and I brushed in the sky because the composition was exactly the same. I didn't have to worry about completely clean edges. So again, if I click here, you can see, again, soft white brush, 100% flow, 100% opacity, and just painted it in that area, which let that sky show through. And that basically gave me my final image, apart from, you know, some minor tweaks, some clarity, some dodging and burning, that kind of thing. But that was the technique that I used. Now the question is it cheating? I don't know. But here's some thoughts. I will regularly shoot and merge exposures where I can't use filters to manage the dynamic range of a scene. I will shoot several identical compositions but focused on different points and then stack them later in order to overcome a situation where I can't get the entire scene back to front sharp. I'll shoot multiple frames and merge them together into a panorama. And I'll even shoot a long exposure and a short exposure and bring those together so that I can blur some parts of the scene but have other parts completely sharp and clear. Is this any different? I don't know. It's a technique I've not really used before. It's a technique that I might be tempted to use again under the right situation. It's not like the images were shot at different locations or on different days. I mean, the 3 main images in there were shot within 5 seconds. Okay, the sky was 2 minutes difference, but I didn't really have to do the sky, but I thought as I was doing the other 3, I might as well do that one. So as a technique, I may well use it again. I guess it's only cheating if you try and hide the fact that that's what you've done. And I've just disclosed exactly what I've done. Anyway, I'm gonna call this a video. I hope you've enjoyed it, or at least found it interesting, whether you think it's cheating or not. If you've enjoyed it, then if you haven't already, please consider hitting subscribe. There'll be a button on the screen up here, and there's a big red button down underneath the video here. Likes and shares are always appreciated and very helpful. And if you'd like to leave me a comment down below, love to read them, always respond. So that's it. I'll just say, until the next video, thank you very much for watching, and bye.